So my interview was with Danny Roper Jones of the Audubon Society. He's the center director for the Nina Mason Pulliam Rio Salado Audubon Center, and I worked with him previously and back in high school, and that's how I got to know him and interview him. So a couple the biggest highlight for me from this interview was that a lot of the things brought up in the course also he also talked about indirectly. Um, so one of the big things was how you should volunteer for something you're passionate about or you like doing, and he talked about how he came from New York City, which is a big urbanized area, but he just loved nature and the outdoors, and he would go hiking a bunch of times, and how this slowly transitioned to him wanting to do, well, first he wanted to study primates, and then after a while it transitioned to sustainability and environmentalism. And it was really cool to hear about how he's made documentaries, created Cambodia's first nature center, did work in Madagascar as well, a couple other places, and this is something he seems to have a lot of experience and is very passionate about. Another thing that stood out for me um, was how COVID wasn't necessarily a bad thing for their organization. Before COVID, funding was slowly dropping. There weren't that many people working for the center, and a lot of challenges were happening. But COVID seemed to work as a reset button for them, and they were able to start getting that funding they needed back. Um, they had time to just think about what they need to do and their four main missions as an organization. Which brings us to back to the point where you have to be kind of specific and concise with what your goals are for the organization. For the Audubon Society, it's sustainability, environmentalism, protecting birds, and also, no, not protect, sustainability, um, removing endangered species, um, building a community, and lobbying. Governments. And for his center, the two main things is just sustainability and and building that community. And he brought up how using uh grassroots movements, and how he uses a ton of those groups to just help do the projects they need to do, and that's where they find a lot of manpower. Additionally, because volunteerism is low for them as well, they partner with other organizations who go find the volunteers for them, and they just send the volunteers to them. So every couple days, they'll have a group come do pull out like invasive species, and then every maybe like twice a month, they'll have a large project with a lot more people come and help with that. So that was interesting to hear how they overcome the lack of volunteerism in their organization. Um, Additionally, he also brought up funding and how as the Audubon as a center, they get the majority of their funding from the Audubon Society, but they also get grants from the state, the state, the city, Parks and Recreation, as well as some from like individual donors. or organizations like the uh, Nina Mason Pulliam Charitable Trust. They get a lot of money from there as well. So that was also interesting to hear. Um, so the way they're trying to build that community around them is by partnering with other organizations and hosting events at their center to try and make it more of a um, community thing and just put on a lot of events. So they partnered with Liberty Wildlife, local artists, and commission work from them, and try to make it a community space where just anyone can go. They have a couple parties every now and then. They run tours there. So it's interesting to hear that building that community seems to be a really big focus for them. Just partnering with local organizations or grassroots movements. It sounds like that's their main goal. And I think it's really important to see how nonprofits just rely on the community and people in general a lot more um, than maybe a company would because of just the nonprofit status they have. Yeah. So that's it for my biggest takeaways from from the interview. Um, I think it was really interesting to hear all the things that they're trying to do to try and rebuild the center and make it pull it back from what it had declined to pre-COVID and during COVID.